Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, leaders in Washington and Frankfurt work toward COVID-19 relief, while Mark Stoops shares his concerns about UK football this fall. And I'll talk with Senate candidate Charles Booker. All that and more is next on Hey Kentucky. Welcome into Hey Kentucky with LEX 18 Sports Director Keith Farmer. And Keith, before we get started on all the COVID-19 news, there was some breaking news this afternoon as Johnny Juzang announced he was going to enter the transfer portal.
Takes us by surprise. I mean, we heard earlier this week when Coach Calipari was talking, he was just glowing about the way he finished up the season, looking forward to next year. It didn't sound like a coach who saw this coming.
Yeah, so more on that next week. All right. Let's get back to the news now. While federal lawmakers passed the massive coronavirus relief bill today, leaders in Frankfurt have come up with their own version for Kentucky. Senate Bill 150 essentially reinforces the emergency steps that Governor Beshear has already taken during the pandemic and turns them into actual law. So things like waiving the 7-day waiting period for unemployment, expanding unemployment to people who are self-employed, setting money aside to help run the state's COVID-19 hotline, and much more will no longer just be an executive order. Legislatures from both sides applauded the bill's unanimous passage and acknowledged it's only a first step.
And it shows that there are things legislatively we can do when working together to help people, to help the businesses of Kentucky as we try to recover and deal with the epidemic of the coronavirus.
I know there's many people who will hear this bill who will think they've missed an opportunity, that there's more that needs to be done in the next weeks ahead. There is still an opportunity, Mr. President, for us to continue to act on this. Things evolve, as we know, day to day on this issue, and I'm sure there'll be more needs. We still have a few days remaining in this session. There'll be an opportunity for us to address further on this.
Senator Mitch McConnell was asked about the timeline for getting government checks to families before the relief bill was passed today, saying it would be a week or two. And President Trump had harsh words for Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie, who talked about trying to delay the legislation. Trump called Massie a third-rate grandstander who should be thrown out of the Republican Party. Keith, he said he was a disgrace to Kentucky and to America.
But he did say we were the great state of Kentucky.
The great state of Kentucky,
yes. But he lit into him on several tweets, which is not one that you want to be on. And then the funnier part was John Kerry chiming in on it.
John Kerry's.
And then Trump coming back and agreeing with John Kerry. When have you ever saw that? It said he was very impressed with his tweet.
Yes, John Kerry said, breaking news, Thomas Massie has been diagnosed as being a blank hole.
Yeah.
And should be quarantined. Loved it.
Leave it at that.
All right, Lexington and other areas have taken the next step in trying to get us to practice social distancing, saying our state is at a tipping point. Many families deal with cabin fever while staying healthy at home. The city's trails and parks had been offering them a place to turn to until now. This afternoon, Mayor Linda Gordon announced that all of Lexington's natural areas, including Raven Run, McConnell Springs, golf courses, and parks, have been closed. All rental facilities and parks programming are canceled until April 20th. Parks will be open to walkers and runners, but it is encouraged that they stay 6 feet apart. The mayor has also announced that yard waste pickup has been suspended for now. The news followed the announcement earlier in the day that the Red River Gorge in eastern Kentucky will also close, following the lead of the Daniel Boone National Forest. And Keith, I can't help but think that some of these measures were taken because a lot of us just didn't listen.
Yeah, how many times did we go out? In fact, yesterday, one of our guys in news went out and he shot people out playing basketball on a court, and people out on the playgrounds and enjoying the nice weather and everything. But they just weren't doing it the right way. You can't play basketball in a 5-on-5 and expect that to be social distancing. We talked about that a little bit yesterday.
You can't. It's not possible. But it's also hard.
It is.
We get it. It's hard. All right. Of course, the COVID-19 crisis has forced many major employers to shut down, including Kentucky locations. But the way they're reacting varies. The Ford Motor Company says it is planning to reopen 5 key auto plants, including its Louisville truck plant, on April 14th. Elsewhere in the Derby City, GE Appliances is pressing ahead with a plan to restart production on Monday and has implemented a number of safety protocols, including mandatory temperature screenings for workers entering the complex and plastic dividers placed between workers on assembly lines. But in Georgetown, Toyota has announced it is extending its shutdown for an additional 2 weeks. This makes the new return to work date April 20th. And Keith, it's so many different ways of reacting. The only thing that really scares me is that you can be asymptomatic.
Yes.
And that is where the concern comes in.
I am concerned because I've never been on a line, so I don't know exactly how close these people are, but I know they're going into a same area. They're going to be using the same restrooms and facilities to go eat lunch and things like that. So that's what concerns me, is having those people so close. And we're trying to get people out of this building and have done so very well.
Yeah. All right, now we wanted to run through some of the more high-profile coronavirus cases with Kentucky connections. Veteran jockey Javier Castellano has tested positive and will quarantine, but he is asymptomatic and feels fine. Actor, singer, and Lexington native Laura Bell Bundy also says she's been diagnosed with COVID-19 but has only mild symptoms so far. Lexington City Bus Service says one employee has tested positive. Lextrans says other employees who may have been exposed are now following protocols. The service is considered an essential business and will continue running with extra precautions. A Lexington firefighter is also positive now. In McCreary County, a woman has been ordered to quarantine after she allegedly had not stayed home after testing positive. And in Nelson County, the forced quarantine of a man there had been lifted after he was cleared using CDC guidelines. Keith, I know those are steps that nobody wants to take, but lots of, recognizable names have now been diagnosed. I saw today Doris Burke,
Yes.
the NBA announcer.
I know. Yeah, and so, I mean, again, do your part by staying away from others. And I hate to see it when, we are starting to see people that we know, and at least that's putting a face to this terrible problem. And so maybe it will make somebody think a little bit more on what they're doing day to day.
I hope so. All right, turning to sports. The Kentucky football team was supposed to return to spring practices today, but that won't be happening during the COVID-19 outbreak. Head coach Mark Stoops said today on a Zoom video conference that he's trying to get his players what they need to be safe, academically successful, and physically stronger. He's also concerned, he says, that there won't be a football season, but he's going to keep preparing his team for the first game. Stoops was asked if there had been any talk of giving any money back financially from his contract to help the university.
I'm prepared to give back. Chantel and I, have been active in this community for a long time, and it's really important for us to give back right now. But it's also important to give back to the university if need be. And yes, I would be open to that personally, of giving back and helping this university and making sure, we have the ability to put the resources into our players, which is most important to me.
Stoops also says none of his players have tested positive for the coronavirus. Keith, I know it's happening all across the country, but we are lucky to have two coaches who are so giving of their time and resources in Mark Stoops and John Calipari and other coaches.
Yeah.
Matthew Mitchell has done a lot as well.
So much, yeah. We've seen that across the board with Kentucky coaches. And again, Coach Stoops is going to be one of those that's going to step forward. I love the creativity he is having with his players. They've not just written down things for them to do strength training. They've given them videos from the strength staff to show them how to do certain things in a creative way. So that's really neat.
And listen, he's also getting takeout.
Oh, yeah, a lot. I've seen that,
him get a lot of takeout.
Exactly.
All right, now in Hey Kentucky, in case you missed it, a review of recent headlines. The state's Chief Justice has urged court officials to release jail inmates as quickly as we can during the COVID-19 outbreak. While local jails seem to be slow in response, Lexington and Louisville have released dozens of inmates. And we'll find out next week if college athletes like UK basketball's Nate Sestina will get an extra year of eligibility. The NCAA is set to vote on Monday whether winter and spring athletes should receive the extra chance due to the cancellations caused by the pandemic. Up next on Hey Kentucky, I'll talk with another candidate in our U.S. Senate race. Louisville lawmaker Charles Booker makes his case for trying to unseat Mitch McConnell in a most unusual election year. Stay with us.